Hi, welcome to Tidbit Tuesday. And today I wanted to talk about Deep Blue. Okay, so there's an online promotion going on this month in March where if you place a 200 PV, that's roughly a little over 250 dollar order, anytime this month, you will get a free Deep Blue rub, like one of doTERRA's top products, and the Deep Blue essential oil. Now this is non-diluted, so this is like usually pretty pricey. So together these are awesome. All right, so let me talk to you about a little bit about how I would use them, how I have used them, and why I love them so much. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how Deep Blue works. Okay, so Deep Blue has a few essential oils in them that are warm and a few that are cold. And so between the two of them, you kind of get this icy hot type of sensation, which is really nice because if you think about it, whenever you're sore, what two things typically feel good? Usually like a hot pack right on the spot where it hurt, where you feel kind of discomfort and stuff like that when you're sore, or an ice pack, right? And what's so cool is that essential oils can have cooling effects and warming effects. And so the two I'm going to talk about, the two different types are in the Deep Blue blend. Okay, so here are the essential oils. Wintergreen has a very warming effect. Peppermint has a very cooling effect. And then the other ones are kind of in between. And so when you combine that wintergreen and peppermint with other soothing essential oils, you really have the best chance for helping reduce the inflammation, those aches and pains. So I love, love, love Deep Blue. I carry it around all the time. I always have to have it with me. It's just so nice to have when you're experiencing that sort of inflammation. So it's really popular to use Deep Blue for exercise. In fact, if you know that you're going to be sore, then it's really cool to be able to use Deep Blue ahead of time. Now, I will say that the Deep Blue essential oil is a little bit less intense, I feel like, than the Deep Blue rub. The Deep Blue rub has an extra, intensifying ingredients, but Deep Blue is not as intense, I would say, the Deep Blue oil. And you can also get the roller that's pre-diluted, and that's even less intense. So depending on how you want to roll with it. So the Deep Blue essential oil or the rub, you can actually put on places that are not sensitive. So I wouldn't put them on sensitive locations, but places that are usually sore after exercise. So for example, when I was exercising, when I took a run around the block, I just had a baby, so I'm starting back up again. When I took a run around the block, I started to get soreness in my calf muscle, okay? Because I haven't really run for a long time. Okay, so I started getting sore in my calf muscle. And so what would be helpful is knowing that this I'm going to probably feel soreness again. You can take some Deep Blue. Okay, you don't need a whole lot. A little bit goes a long way. And you just rub it in the area where you feel like you could definitely be sore. One of the coolest things about Deep Blue is you can put it on before the pain hits, before the inflammation starts. And it's so much less, for me, it's so much less intense afterward. So it's really great to put on before exercising so that you're not as sore the next day. Hopefully that helps for you. That helps for me and a lot of people I know. So that's one thing I like to use the Blue for. Another thing that's really that I use it for a lot is sometimes, carrying kids around, doing a lot of bending over, my lower back starts, feeling, getting inflammation. So I like putting it on my lower back to soothe, to just kind of give that soothing feeling. And because I am nursing, whenever I use Deep Blue, I always use an essential oil that will help support milk production, because peppermint usually kind of helps deplete it. And so my favorites to use for just supporting my body through using peppermint to maintain my milk supply or to increase it where peppermint is going the opposite direction is either clary sage or clary calm, the blend. Either one of those, either on my breasts or on my hands, I'll put on, and usually that counteracts the peppermint effect there. Okay, so exercise is a good one. Actually, I would have to say the most common time we use Deep Blue is when my daughter has growing pains. Okay, because she has growing pains on her knees, her hips, wherever, but usually her knees get the worst of it. She'll complain right before bed or in bed, my knee hurts. And then what we usually do, because she does have, she does have in her family genetics, she does have the possibility of like the juvenile arthritis route. And because I don't know if that's what's going on. I have no clue. But because I know that her knees have a tendency to hurt worse than, mine ever did as a kid, what I like to do is I like to get the Deep Blue oil and put it on first. Okay. So I'll put it on her knee. It's blue. That's why it's called Deep Blue, because the oil's blue. Okay. So put that on first on her knee, and I'll just put it like a drop or two. Okay. I love the smell of the Deep Blue oil. If you have not smelled the Deep Blue essential oil, just the rub, try smelling the oil. I love this essential oil blend, Deep Blue. This oil blend smells amazing. Okay, so once I do that and rub it in a little bit, then I take the Deep Blue rub and just a little bit, her knee's kind of small. And I do this with both the knees if both knees are bothering her. And put that right on top. And then she likes to have an ice pack to go with it. I think it's the novelty of having an ice pack. But hopefully it helps too. But she also asks for an ice pack. So I'll give her an ice pack and she'll put it on, and she never complains after that. The next day she's totally fine. And usually I only have to do that maybe once every month or two. So but we do use Deep Blue a lot for those things. In fact, one of the first, Deep Blue was actually the first essential oil that my husband felt confident using, which was really, really cool, because he, at first when we started using essential oils, he was kind of like, oh yeah, I don't know, you use them because you think these are cool, but they're expensive, so I'm not going to use them. So that's kind of what his mentality was. And then after a while, life happened, and he was riding his bike one day and got in a minor bike accident. It wasn't major. It was no like really intense injuries, but he got in a little bit of a bike accident, and he came home and he was complaining about his knee, and that his knee was bothering him. He kept talking about his knee, that it just was hurting, and it didn't look broken. It didn't look like there was anything super wrong. So I was like, just, if we need to go to the hospital, we'll go to the hospital. But, he didn't think it was that bad. So I said, well, okay, at least use the Deep Blue. And so he put some Deep Blue rub. I think it was rub, or maybe it was the oil. I don't know either. It was one of the two. He put some right on his knee. And then, 5 minutes later, he said nothing about it. 10 minutes later, nothing. 20 minutes later, nothing. So about a half hour after, when he had said nothing about his knee, when previously that's all he could talk about, I asked him, so how's your knee doing now? And he said, oh, I didn't really, I haven't noticed it. I just kind of forgot about it. And I asked him how it was, and he said it actually doesn't hurt anymore. And had I not brought that up, he probably wouldn't have made that connection. But because I mentioned, how does it feel now? He actually realized that he had an experience with it. And after that, Deep Blue was his go-to whenever he had a muscle ache or soreness there. Another thing I love to use Deep Blue for is for its cooling effects, because there are times when I am, going to bed and my feet just feel so hot, and I'm going to bed that I just want to, my feet are just so hot and I'm uncomfortable. And then what I'll do is I'll actually grab some of the Deep Blue rub and I'll put it on the bottom of my feet. And just a little bit, enough that I need, just like on the bottom of my feet, on each foot. And then my body just feels so much more cool, and I go to sleep really easily, you know, if hot feet is the only issue. So it's very cooling in that regard. And I know a lot of people who have trouble sleeping because of their sore muscles. Heck, use Deep Blue on your back, on your knee, whatever is bothering you before you go to bed. Put it on before you go to bed. In fact, I know people who will keep a bottle of Deep Blue on their bedside table because they're going to use it either at nighttime or in the middle of the night. They're going to wake up with an ache. So it's a great one to have on hand. I love using it. Definitely only use it in places that are not really sensitive. Because here's a horror story from my husband. So he actually, you know, one day was using Deep Blue and then went to the bathroom right after. And he hadn't washed his hands, which I would recommend doing after you use Deep Blue. Because if you touch your face or a private part, it's going to tingle and burn a little bit. So just so you know, use it with caution related to sensitive skin. So Deep Blue is awesome, though don't put it on areas that are super sensitive. In fact, I can't put Deep Blue all over my back, then I'm just cold. But I do like putting it like on my lower back, on my shoulder, on my elbow, on my wrist, on my knees, on my ankles, on my feet, you know, on my calf muscles. Those are not sensitive areas. I also put it on the back of my neck sometimes for tension. Sometimes I'll use actually just the oil and put the oil on the sides of my head. But the rub is a little more intense. So if you're planning on having a little bit of a less intense effect, definitely try the oil, the Deep Blue oil. And then so the essential oil like this, which you'll get for free if you use a 200 PV order this month, or the roller bottle. And then if you want to go a little bit more like, I really want this to dive really deep into my tissues, I kind of really want that icy hot feeling, the rub is amazing to use. So that's how I use Deep Blue. I know that a lot of athletes will use Deep Blue. A lot of professional athletes are starting to come out saying they use Deep Blue. Professional ballerinas, you know, people who deal with sore muscles on a regular basis. Deep Blue is so nice because I know people who will sometimes, they're just used to popping an ibuprofen all the time. Popping ibuprofen, Tylenol with extra strength, you know, those types of things. And after a while, those really start to degrade and deteriorate. That's one of the side effects. Deteriorate or break down the kidneys, the liver, you know, and have all those side effects attached to them. So because, you know, I want to live more naturally, have fewer side effects in my life, really just go down the route of, you know, educating myself on wellness and really taking the best possible route for me for the best overall result. I like to use Deep Blue. And so a lot of professional athletes, a lot of people who work out on a regular basis will turn to Deep Blue because you'll get those amazing soothing benefits most likely. And yes, and you won't have to worry about all those different side effects. So that's why I love Deep Blue and I recommend it all the time. I carry it around everywhere. Deep Blue is awesome to have. So if you are inspired to use Deep Blue in a new way, feel free to use it. Also, feel free to share a story about Deep Blue because almost everybody has an awesome story to share about Deep Blue. So if you do, feel free to comment below the video your awesome experience with Deep Blue. And I will talk to you later. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and keep me posted on your journey. Take care.